Customs. We have another Superman figure today. We are going to be making a Kong Kenan. Now, as you guys have noticed over the past couple months, I've done a lot of Superman family characters, and I've wanted to do all of them. And Kong Kenan is the next one. I got this wrestling figure. He's got the perfect head, and I've got the John Kent body left over from when we used the head on Superman 1 Million. So we're gonna put these two guys together, and we are going to make a Kong Kenan. I'm going to see if my brother can actually print the symbol. We're gonna play around with some different stuff this time, and hopefully make this work. So let's go ahead and dive in. The head on this wrestling figure pops up really easily. As you can see, you don't even need to heat it up. Now, it doesn't fit perfectly on the McFarlane neck peg. So what I've done is I've put some sticky tack, you know, that you put on the back of posters, wall tack, and I put it in here, and as you can see, you just fit it on and it fits. It will not come off. It's perfect. Before we get too far into Kong Kenan, I've come to Sacramento to work with my brother. He's got some ideas on how to do the symbol here, and I'm very excited.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm in a program called SketchUp, which is a really nice, simple, pretty easy to learn 3D modeling software. And I'm starting with just the outline, the frame of our Superman logo. And I'm building it bigger than what we actually need it, and then we'll scale it down. And so I've got an image here of Kong Kenan's symbol, and I'm just going to start building it in 3D and then pulling things up and pushing things down until we're pretty happy with what we've got. And then I'll scale it down. We'll copy it like 6 times, and then we'll go 3D print it.
While he's doing that, I just want you to take a look at these helmets here. He made all of those. So, yeah, he knows what he's doing. While that's printing, I'm going to go ahead and give him a haircut. There we go. Kenan does not have a ponytail. I'm also going to give him a little bit of a shave here. Same X-Acto knife. Just going to trim off this little soul patch that he's got here. Sand that a little bit and we'll be in good shape. Since my brother has all the tools, I'm using a little file just to get this face a little bit more uniform.
Actually, I'm really happy with them. I was a little nervous because they're so small and they're thin, which means the detail is going to be super, super fine, but it printed really nicely. We just need to do a little cleanup on them, but I mean, you can totally see the symbol in there, and you'll be able to paint these things up super nice. The fact that we were able to get this detail, and they're pretty fine, if you use a filler primer on these, you'll be able to get rid of those layer lines pretty nicely. Use a heat gun to form it to the chest. You're going to be in business.
I don't have any of those things.
You don't?
We're back home. Let's go ahead and start painting this guy, playing around with the symbol. Let's get Kong Kenan done. Here is our symbol. What we're going to do now is we're basically just going to trim off these pieces here. I have a couple of these shields, obviously, that David made. And we're going to chop these off, and then we're going to sand them down. I'm just going to go over and sand and get this as smooth as possible. And then I've got this filler primer that David gave me that will fill in before we paint. It will kind of fill in some of the lines here. I've never done anything like this before. What I'm going to do, I'm boiling some water. I want to get this so that it molds to his chest. I'm going to take a cup of water and I'm going to put it in there, and hopefully it's hot enough to really get it to where it will soften up, and then we will see if we can mold it. Let's see what we can do. It feels soft. Let's see if we can press it down here. It's kind of changed shape, but not in the way that I wanted it to. It's just kind of like, now it's kind of in a weird shape. But it looks like it is kind of working. Well, it seems to have worked. Let's go ahead and glue it on. Now the S did shrink a little bit in the water. It no longer covers up here, so I'll have to do something with that, but it does mold to his chest and it looks pretty good. So, you know, this is all experimentation, and so far so good. What I'm doing now to fill in these little spots is I'm taking a little bit of the clay and I'm just placing it here, filling in those spots because they're indented, and then wiping away the excess so that it stays stuck in there. And that'll solve that problem. Let's go ahead while we're moving right along, start painting the S, or the yin and yang symbol / Superman symbol. While we have the black out, we might as well go over some of these areas here that are black on the new suit and just use up that paint so nothing goes to waste. The great thing about these Vallejo paints is that they go on so nice and thin. Like, one of the things I'm going to start doing is sanding down the joints, because I know that that's one thing I've been learning, so that the paint doesn't scrape. But the paint, I've noticed, only scrapes when I'm using spray paints. And when I'm using these Vallejos and putting on a nice light layer, they don't scrape again when the joints move, because it's such a thin coat of paint. I love it. Boots are black too, down from the knees. So let's get that covered too. While the black dries, I'm going to put the red on. Now, there is no blue on Kong Kenan, so all of this is going to be red. I'm probably going to have to put 2 coats on it just to make sure that it covers the blue and the yellow and that they match. Because that's something that I've seen, is that if I do a single coat and if I go over red, it usually looks really good. And I can even get it good over blue, but if there's a blue and a yellow right next to each other, they will not match unless I do multiple coats. So just be prepared for that when you're doing your own stuff. The symbol is red too, so while we got the red paint out, let's just go ahead and get that sucker done. Next is the yellow accents. Now I tried to keep this edge free of paint on the symbol so that I could do the yellow. The nice thing about having this 3-dimensional symbol that my brother printed is that it's going to make doing the yellow a little bit easier than it otherwise would be. So yeah, I'm just going to coat it, hit these edges. What I'm going to do right now with Kong is that I'm going to accent the dots on here because they've been kind of dropped down. So I'm going to do a nice big drop of fabric paint on each of these like yin and yang things so that we can have just a little bit more of an accent on them. And then I will sand them down if needed and paint them, but that'll give them a much nicer sort of rounded symbol, which is what I'm after. Now, the original figure that this head came from had this orange Marty McFly life preserver vest. We're going to cut this into strips for the yellow lines that he's got on his arms and his legs, and then we're going to glue those in. We're going to paint him yellow, and then we're going to glue those in place so that he's got 3-dimensional aspects, just like what we did with Connor Kent with Superboy, as we did, you know, on his legs, the little accents that he had. This sort of material is perfect for this sort of stuff because you can cut it thin, it wraps around really easily. You just do some strips like this, and then you paint them yellow, and you glue them on. And it allows you to have those 3-dimensional elements that we all want, you know, so that it looks like a manufactured toy. That's how McFarlane does it, is that instead of using a lot of paint apps, they have these plastic 3-dimensional elements. And so just by painting them yellow and by gluing them in place, we are creating our own factory-like figure. What I'm doing right now is that in the new comics, his new suit has some yellow along the edge of the red here. So I'm just going to add that too. And I'm going to go kind of fast because I can fix any slop on the black. So it's going on pretty nicely right now. But if there is any sloppage, which there will be, you can't, you know, there's not a machine doing this, it's you doing it. See, look over there, I just got a huge glob. But I can go back over with the black and I can fix it. Now I'm just going through some of the detail work. Crisping up some of the yellow on the black here, just to make it so that the lines are a little bit more uniform. And then I'm going to go over the red on the symbol to make it look crisper as well. What I'm going to do real quick now is just touch up a little bit of the yellow in some of these spots. Just nice and light. And then what I'm going to do is, this part is red, right? And in the comic right now, when he wears his jacket, it's red, but underneath it's white, and in all the other versions, it's been white. And so I am going to paint it white. I know that it's not necessarily comic book accurate, but I like it better that way. And so that is what I'm going to do. And don't be afraid to do that. You know, if you like a character a certain way, it doesn't matter if it's not 100% accurate. You make it the way that you want to make it, and screw everybody else, honestly. It's not their figure, it's yours. And I want Kong shiny. So he's getting a shot of gloss. And there we go. Kong Kenan is finished. I now have a full set so far of the Superman family. I still need a Supergirl, and I'd love to do the Super Twins, but currently there's no there's no little figures that would make that happen. Still, I love how this guy turned out. It was great to experiment. Now remember, when you're hand painting some of these details, they're not going to be perfect. I went over some of these like 5 times to try and get them as straight as possible, and even some of the areas weren't perfect. Plus, with the shield being 3D printed, not on a resin printer, it did not turn out with the edges exactly what I wanted. That's okay. You know, maybe sometime in the future I'll try and make it more perfect, but for now, this is perfect. So have fun with this stuff, guys. Don't worry so much about it. Make it your own. Create the characters that you love. I'm Stephen Human with Superhuman Creative, and remember, check out stephenhuman.com for all of your sci-fi thriller book needs if you guys are readers, and get customizing. I'll see you next week.